It's a great time of year for auto racing because this Sunday is the running of the 98th Indianapolis 500, and during qualifying, one man drove his car faster than anybody else, and so now he is the pole sitter, and he's on the line with us right now. Ed Carpenter, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
How's everything going? You up for Sunday?
I am. I'm feeling good about things. It's been last weekend was great. We've had a good couple weeks of preparation for the race, and I'm looking forward to it.
Now, at Indy, the way I understand it, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm getting into the racer's head a little bit here, there are two separate races. There's the one against the clock that puts you on the pole, and that was qualifying last weekend, and then there's the one coming up on Sunday. Are there actually two different mindsets when you come into Indy?
For sure. Qualifying is the first part of it, and you always want to qualify as well as you can, and it was great for our team to get my car on the pole and be the fastest, and my teammate was ninth, so we've shown we have good speed. But then when it comes time to prepare for the race, it's different. When you're qualifying, you're the only car on the track. All you have to do is worry about making your car as fast as you can for 4 laps, and then when it comes to the race, we'll run about 30 laps between pit stops. So you need to worry about taking care of your tires over that stint, and also, dealing with 32 other car and drivers on the track and making sure your car handles well.
Right. So qualifying, you're basically just putting the pedal to the metal and not hitting anything. That's kind of the way you should think about it, right?
And the race is more like a chess game.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's a good way of putting it.
Hey, let me ask you this, Ed. When you qualified, how fast did you go?
My 4-lap average was 231 miles an hour.
Wow. That's your average?
Okay. All right. Here's what I want to know. And I think a lot of people want to know this because I feel fairly confident in saying that just about everybody listening to us right now has never driven faster than maybe 120. and so when you're doing 231, what's that like?
It's a whole lot of fun.
Attaboy.
Some people call us crazy, but we love going fast, and that's a big part of the reason why most of us are in Indy cars, because we love the speed and the competition. But it's a thrill. It's a lot of fun. It's nerve-wracking. There's a lot of anxiety because when you get the car set up to go that fast, you're taking basically all the downforce off of it. The car is on the edge of losing contact with the road all the time.
Another thing that I'm pretty certain people don't understand, because the cars we get out of the showroom and drive on the freeway pretty much do everything for us. We just need to be awake and alert, and we'll get from point A to point B. But you're an athlete out there. You've got to really manhandle that vehicle because, from what I understand, you can drive it too slow or too fast. You could turn it too hard. You could do all sorts of things, and if you don't do it just right, you're going to get airborne and or it's something worse, right?
Well, there's all sorts of things that can happen, but yeah, we are athletes. The cars are very physical to drive. They don't have power steering, so the steering wheel is very heavy. But it's all worth it.
How do you maintain that adrenaline? If you're going that fast and it never really gets old, you're flying. How do you maintain that amount of adrenaline for so long?
It takes a high level of focus to drive these cars, just because there's such a small margin of error all the time, especially when there's other cars on track. So not only are you having to worry about your car and not making your own car, but you also have to be aware of what's going on around you and avoid other people's mistakes constantly. So it takes a high level of focus, and that goes right back into the training part of it, being physically in good shape, just so your body doesn't break down.
All right, I want to talk a little driving strategy. You've got your guy in the 9th position, so you guys are you're listening to the same team on your headset. You know where you are on the track. You know who's around you. You know what spot you're in. You know how close you are to the next pit stop and all these sorts of things. But how much do you work together, or alone for that matter, to keep the guys that are right behind you from getting any kind of an advantage? Are you constantly kind of, okay, he goes to the right a little bit, you go to the right a little bit. He goes to the left, that sort of thing. And do you help each other pass other guys from time to time as well?
Not really. I mean, the teamwork element of it comes in the preparation and getting ready for the race. Once the race starts, we're each running our own race, and we're each trying to win. There's times where you could be together and help each other a little bit, but for the most part, I won't be thinking about my teammate when I'm out.
There's no
my job.
No, I want to win.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
No, there's no bumping guys like those NASCAR drivers.
No.
Those cars would disintegrate.
Which brings up the point. You better look out. Kurt Busch is out there on the track. He might come around the corner and try to bump you a little
Does
bit.
he know the rules?
Yeah.
Oh, he knows the rules. He knows the rules. He's done a great job this month. He did have a little bit of an accident Friday practice and got into the wall, but he's been doing a great job. And it's just a different style of racing, and he's adapted very well.
That's good. And one more question about taking us back to the showroom metaphor for the average driver. We spend 30, 40 grand on a car. Kurt Busch wrecked his car. And what kind of dollar are you talking about just to put four wheels on the track at the start?
I mean, the car costs about $500,000. I'm sure his damage the other day was, well over $100,000.
So the deductible's covered already, right?
Good one.
No insurance on these bad boys.
Whoa!
I'll take a Rolls Royce for $500,000 any day over a go-kart that you guys race.
Ed Carpenter, we're going to be watching you. It's exhilarating to watch the race and watch you go for so long, and you're just turning left, right?
Yeah. I mean, one way of looking at it, but there's a lot that goes into it.
I know there is. We're not belittling it at all. It's amazing what you do out there, and we wish you the best of luck, and hope you get to drink something nice up on a podium at the end of this thing.
Yeah, hopefully a nice cold glass of milk. That's what we get when we win Indy.
There you go. Enjoy the Brickyard, and thanks for talking with us here on the program, Ed Carpenter.
Thank you, guys.
How about that, huh? That guy drives fast. Faster than me. Joining us live is a man who's been covering the Indy 500 since 1969. Possibly would have started covering it sooner if he had the chance. Worked for the Indianapolis Star, Auto Week car and driver. He currently writes for Racer Magazine, Racer.com, and he's the racing correspondent for NBC Sports Network. Hello to Robin Miller. Hello, sir.
How you guys doing?
Spectacular. Glad to have you on right now. Robin, I often hear people say, I'm not a racing fan, but I love the Indy 500. What's so special about this race?
Well, I think, obviously the 11 rows of three, the flying start, the tradition. It's been around to be 100 years old here by 2016. And it's the fastest race in the world. And I think that always draws people in that are just maybe trying to spend a couple hours watching something. And the thing that worries me is that last year's racing was as good as I've ever seen. I think there were 64 lead changes. It was one of the lowest TV ratings ever. So hopefully that trend's going to change, because qualifying and the Grand Prix race, the road race here earlier this month, it was all on ABC. And I think the fact that 3 weekends in a row you've been on ABC, I really think that's going to help maybe get the number back to being respectable.
Hopefully the weather will hold up, too, because nothing can kill a Indy weekend better than a rainstorm. How'd you get interested in racing? Were you ever a driver?
Yeah, I when you grow up in Indianapolis, my dad brought me out here in 1957. Started going to the race in 58. And then I covered it for the Indianapolis Star. And I'm covering Vukovic and Bettenhausen and Parsons and all the guys that are IndyCar drivers. And my buddy was Art Pollard, who was a driver. And I said, man, I'd like to start racing. So he said, well, sell your van or sell your sports car, and I'll help you get a van. And went and bought a Formula Ford from Andy Granatelli. And I ran 1 year of Formula Fords. And all the guys I hung around with, Bettenhausen, Parsons, Vukovic, all the Indy drivers, said, if you want to learn how to drive a race car, you need to get a midget or sprint car. So that's what I did.
Those are some big names. Anybody who was following racing in the 60s and 70s, and I probably have an unused bottle of STP in the garage somewhere. You bring up Andy Granatelli.
Andy,
that's what I think of.
His car, but then I bought a midget from Gary Bettenhausen, and that was probably the best thing I did, because racing back in USAC back in the 70s for 8 or 9 years like I did, you're racing against all the guys that are in the Indy 500, and it was it was just a great experience.
Well, what brought that to an end for you?
Pardon me?
What brought that to an end for you? Why'd you stop racing?
I was $160,000 in debt.
Oh.
That'll do it.
Wow.
That's usually, if I could have borrowed more money, I probably would have kept going. But I was never very smart, and I had a couple concussions, which made me dumber as I raced. But the thing of it is when you write about it and you talk about it on television, and you've been as lucky as I have to pretty much grow up in the glory days.
Yeah.
It just makes your job. I mean, I've got an interesting perspective. I've got an interesting perspective that most people don't, because I got to race, and I've been writing about it for 47 years, and by the grace of God, they put some of the face for radio on television the last several years.
That's right. Hey, I love that. And when there's hope for us. When you cover a race, where do you find the best stories? In the garage, in the pit, or behind the wheel?
Oh, probably all of them. Just, there's all kinds of, Ed Carpenter winning the pole, beating Ganassi, Penske, and Andretti again. That's just a made-for-order story that, people just, that's the kind of story that you get behind. But what IndyCar racing needs, Phil, is they need Andretti or Ray Hall. They need somebody with a second-generation name to win a race, because I think most of the newspapers around the country then would put a headline and pick it up because they knew who these people are. No offense to Scott Dixon or Dario or anybody else, but a lot of people just don't know much about them, and they don't resonate with the public, whereas Andretti or Ray Hall, people have heard of them because, they're second, third-generation drivers.
Oh, what about a guy like Kurt Busch?
Well, I think that'd be good. I don't think he's ready to win the Indy 500 yet, but he's been very impressive, and I really admire what he's done. He's come here to, get outside his comfort zone and done a really good job. And it's just fun to watch a guy like that, because it used to be commonplace for NASCAR guys to come around Indy, and now they don't do it anymore. So I think everybody in the IndyCar paddock is very impressed with his attitude and just everything that he's done.
We're talking to Robin Miller right now. He's been covering Indy 500, the Indianapolis 500 for decades now. And you do something. I want you to explain this to me. At the start of the race, when the drivers are firing up their engines, what is that? You start running around. What do you do?
Well, there's a grid. We had this thing on NBC called the Grid Run, and Fox has since kind of stolen it from us. But you just run up and down the grid trying to talk to drivers as they're getting ready to get in their car, because it's a good chance to see the drivers, kind of off the cuff. No, they're getting ready to get in a race car, and they say some pretty funny things, and it's a chance to show their personality. That's why we did it.
I can imagine really they either love it or hate it, right?
Well, yeah, the thing is it worked really well when we had Dan Weldon and I did it. Dan Weldon started one end of the grid, and I started at the other, and he just won the Indy 500 in 2011, so the drivers like to mess with us, and then they got a guy like Weldon, who's one of their competitors, doing it. So that was by far the highlight of doing the Grid Run. And, it's...
and for those who don't follow racing, Weldon recently died. We should point that out. And
yeah, Dan lost his life at the end of the 2011 season.
Yeah. Hey, do you ever annoy the drivers? Do they ever smack you in the head?
No, Foyt smacked me. AJ smacked me 30 years ago, but we've been friends.
You made up, huh?
Yeah, we made up. It's you cover people all the time and you write about them, talk about them. People get mad, but I think AJ we had a pretty good mutual respect, because I raced and I worked on Indy 500 pit crews, and he gets mad. He got mad at people for all kinds of things, and it was just one of those little deals. Thankfully, he didn't really hit me. He just smacked me, because if he'd have hit me, I probably wouldn't be here.
He was a strong guy. All right, our Jennifer Bjorklund here, she's on our program, but she also works for NBC. So this is going to give you permission now, since you're working for NBC Sports, for the NBC Sports Network. The race is going to be on ABC, but I just wanted to give you the permission to give us a scoop. What have you found that you haven't announced yet on the network?
Ooh.
Oh, there's nothing really right now.
Oh, we wanted a scoop, man. You can trust us.
Don't think there'll be anything. When all the cars are the same and the engines are really competitive, there's not a lot of secrets right now. And I think a couple teams might have tried to cheat in qualifying, and it probably backfired and didn't work. But nothing. This is the closest, fastest field they've ever had in 98 years in Indy. So
231 miles an hour on the pole.
Yeah, but the average speed of the field was 229 something. That's the average speed for 33 cars.
It's amazing.
So when you hear the NASCAR talking about how this is the fastest, greatest racing in the world, that couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah. You really don't like NASCAR, do you, sir?
No, right.
What's to like?
Yeah. Well, Robin Miller, we're out of time, but we wish you the greatest weekend ever there in Indianapolis, and it was just a pleasure to speak with you, and we'll be watching you with your reports on the NBC Sports Network. Thanks so much for being on with us here on the program.